Hey, welcome to another great edition of Mississippi Stories. I am your host, Marshall Ramsey, editor at large and editorial cartoonist for Mississippi Today. Now, these are old statistics. These are from 2018, but it'll kind of give you a picture of what our conversation is going to be about today. This was in 2018. So since 2010, Mississippi had been the hungriest state in the country at that point, over 600,000 people, which is 20% of our friends and neighbors in Mississippi are considered to be food insecure. And that includes 1 in 4 children. Like I said, those numbers probably haven't improved an awful lot, but our guest today is doing an awful lot to try to make sure that happens. And I will just, as an editor's note, I will say he is a guy that he and I worked together many, many years ago when we were much younger to fight cancer. And I know about his heart and know about his effort. But he, of course, is with the Society of St. Andrew. And of course, they do gleaning in Mississippi and Arkansas. Of course, he's over the Mississippi. It's led by 2 staff people here in the state and works with hundreds of partners across the state where they are passionate about sharing good food with Mississippians in need as well. Langston Moore is a lifelong resident of Mississippi. He serves as the regional director, leads the development, donor, and congregational relations. And basically, he's kind of the go-to guy. He's had over a decade of experience in the field of food insecurity, hunger relief, and food access. He and his wife, Lisa, reside in the capital city of Jackson, a graduate of Mississippi College. And you've got an 18-year-old son, and you're active in the Fondren Church in Jackson as well. And you've been with So Sam's since August of 2020. Congratulations, man.
Thanks, man. It's a blessing to be here. It's my passion
Yeah.
to serve people and to do it with just the basic need of food is incredible.
So, I mean, just those numbers that I threw out. And like I said,
Yeah.
you probably have better updated numbers, but I mean, the whole concept that Mississippi is literally, if you look at a map of where the food deserts are in Mississippi, it is a good chunk of the state of Mississippi. UMMC describes a food desert as like in urban areas, residents live more than a mile from a grocery store. In rural areas, residents live more than 10 miles from a grocery store, and increased numbers. The bottom line is people can't get to grocery stores. They're going to convenience stores to get their
Yep.
food, or they're going to the fast food restaurant. So even though they're eating, and maybe we have an obesity crisis, they're not getting good food.
So it's really an anomaly, Marshall. We are usually the fattest state in the nation, but we're also the hungriest state in the nation.
Yeah.
And people, when I say that, it blows their mind
Yeah.
because they don't understand. But if you just step back, and me living in Jackson, I see this on a daily basis. Like you said, our neighbors are going to convenience stores because number one, that's what they can afford.
Right.
Number two, that's what they have access to. So it's this high caloric, high sugar foods, and they're not getting good nutritious food in their diets. And that's what we're here for, is to kind of close that gap because we rescue millions of pounds of food from farms that would go to waste because the food's too big, too small, not the right size, not the right shape, not ripe enough, too ripe, blemishes, anything, but it's still perfectly nutritious food. And we do that, and we partner with congregations and groups and Rotary clubs all across the state. I say from Corinth to the coast, from Meridian to the mighty, to get good fresh food to our hungry neighbors.
Yeah, that's one thing I love about Mississippi is when we do see a need, and Lord knows there's plenty of it, that we generally find creative ways to be able to
Yeah.
solve that need. How did the Society of St. Andrew become itself? I mean, how was it born? Thank you. Is that
It's a great story, man.
yeah.
We started actually in 1979 in Big Island, Virginia, which I'd never heard of Big Island, Virginia until I
Sounds like a
came
fun
here.
place. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not even an island, which is
Okay.
what's funny to me. Um, but yeah, and so we were started by 3 Methodist ministers and their families. They saw a need to serve people through food. They saw hungry neighbors. They saw food being left in farm fields after the first harvest,
Yeah.
and it was being tilled up and just used as fertilizer, basically, kind of composted. And they went to the Methodist conference in Virginia, got $10,000. And the way I cut this story short, I said the rest is history. We have 12 regions across the United States. If you look at the map, and this is Mississippi, if you swoop up the Atlantic coast, that's where we are basically. We're in all these southern states, but also Ohio, Indiana. And we just opened an office further up called Delmarva. It's Delaware, Maryland, and Virginia. And we've rescued almost 1 billion pounds of food since 1979. But in Mississippi, we started in 2006, just from funds that were created in seeing a need in Mississippi. And in Mississippi, we've rescued about 23 million pounds of food over the course of since we've been in existence. We're in 2022, right now, as of yesterday, we're at like 973,000 pounds of fresh food,
Wow.
and water that we've rescued for our neighbors. So um, we're we're a really incredible organization because Marshall, I'm talking about these millions of pounds of food that are being rescued.
Yeah.
There's only 2 full-time people in every region across the United States. And we are a truly volunteer-driven organization. We're totally funded by grants from foundations, donations from individuals, and we're very efficient with our funds. Just to talk about that a little bit, every $1 that comes into our offices, we can push out 45 servings of food, which is, according to the USDA, is 9 meals.
Yeah.
And I'm very proud of that number. I'll put that number up against any nonprofit that we're successful. We're good stewards of our money, of our time. Um, we're a faith-based organization. We serve the Lord, and we're not ashamed about it. So, um, yeah, it's a blessing to be here, man, and to partner with so many great organizations. We put our food into food pantries, churches who have food pantries, and yeah, when we give food, fresh food to food pantries, it takes a burden off of them of budget matters because we're talking 11,000 pounds of sweet potatoes we did in Oxford on Saturday. So we're not talking about giving you, 50 pounds at a time. We do bulk better than Sam's. So yeah, that's who we are, man.
You talk about gleaning and you talk about rescuing the food from the farms themselves. Number one, how do you get those relationships with the farmers? And number two, are there other ways that you glean?
Yeah. So, we have relationships with about 125 farmers across the state. We're constantly looking for new farmers, and believe it or not, we're always finding new farmers. Um, we are now in sweet potato season, and we'll be taking many trips to Vardaman and connecting with those farmers. But it's just important for us to find the farms, tell them what we do, because the thing we have in common is farmers want people to eat. They want to
Yeah.
feed people. They don't want their food to go to waste. And so we're that vehicle to be able to get that food and get it to people in need. And so that's really our main way of rescuing food. However, we have a unique relationship, and I won't go into detail about names, but my wife works in kind of a strip mall setting with 3 other businesses, and they share a dumpster. And one day she went out there, and there were dozens and dozens and dozens of eggs in the dumpster. And anyway, she called me, and I went over there, and I didn't get them, but I established a relationship with this company that's a food broker, and they have samples coming in that they broker out to different agencies to try to buy the food. And so now we're rescuing, you know, thousands of pounds of food from them. It's canned food, it's frozen foods, it's proteins, it's whatever, and we take those directly to. Really, that food goes to places like Gateway that actually cook food, and
Yeah.
Stew Pot that cook food. So we're very unique in what we do. Like, we never say no, basically, to how can we get food. If you have food and it's fresh food and it's nutritious food, we want it. And we have the ways and means to put it out there to our hungry neighbors.
How did you find out about the job? I mean, because like I said, I've known you've done a bunch of different things, and like I said, you and I volunteered together back in the days to help
Yeah.
fight cancer. But how did you find this job, and how has it changed since you've been in?
Man, it's an interesting story. Um, I've worked in the nonprofit sector for, I guess, 15 years now, getting a paycheck.
Yeah.
Uh, Yeah, so I volunteered for 4 years with the Society of St. Andrew when I was at the Partnership for a Healthy Mississippi. And long story short is I left the partnership to do some private sector work, and that didn't really work out. They eliminated my position in the first case of COVID.
Oh,
So I was out of a job for 6 months, and I was delivering tires and food and groceries and whatever, trying to make ends meet. And, thanks to the good Lord, we never missed a paycheck and never missed a bill. Um, and I mean, the job found me, Marshall.
yeah,
That's truth because this position as director has never been funded in Mississippi.
really.
And my friend Andy Lemon, who used to be the program coordinator, is now the national director of communications, came to me and said, "Hey, they're funding this position in Mississippi. Are you interested?" And I said, "Well, Andy, you know I love Sosa, and you know I don't have a job, so I'll look into it." So yeah, here I am, man. It's a blessing for sure, but it's a passion of mine. I found out at the partnership to be involved in food insecurity, working with college hunger, which blows people's mind. The college
Yeah.
students are, we're talking about 36% of our college students are hungry
Okay, let's
because
back up a second. Ham,
you
what was that percentage again?
36% is the latest number I
So
heard.
nearly 1 in 4 college kids are
Yeah,
literally going to class every day with an empty stomach.
yeah, and you know what that does? I mean, they can't pay attention. Um, they're worried about where their next meal is going to come from, if they're going to eat today.
Yeah.
And I worked to create the Mississippi University and College Anti-Hunger Alliance, which I believe is still in existence. I kind of got away from it, but we worked with an organization called Mazon. It's Mazon, which is a Jewish response to hunger. They fund hunger relief agencies, and they
Yeah.
funded us with the partnership to help establish food pantries on college campuses. And one of my biggest honors was to go in front of a congressional panel to testify about college hunger. Because, Marshall, the first thing college kids do to get by, to get through college, to get their education is if they need money, they give up that meal ticket because it's
Yeah.
expensive.
Yeah.
And that's why we need those food pantries. But, an interesting thing about college food pantries is something I realized that just came to me when I was at the Eagles Nest, excuse me, in Hattiesburg, which is the mecca of college food pantry. I was looking around, they had so many items there, and how they have it organized is incredible and beautiful. And they have these canned foods.
Yeah.
And I thought about it, I said, "Hey, do y'all have like can openers, for these cans?" They're like, "No." I'm like, we don't know if college students have can openers. And I said, you need to find somebody that will put a logo on a can opener and buy you some can openers, man. So, hunger's really tricky. It's a tricky, tricky situation and has so many layers, like peeling an onion back. And me being in this realm for 15 years, I swear to you, I learn something new every day about needs and where we can get food and who doesn't have food and water crisis and all
Yeah,
things
you
of
talked.
all that
You
nature.
mentioned water. Obviously,
Yeah.
yeah. Number one, how do you glean water? And number two, tell us some of the efforts that you had during. I would say during the water crisis. I'm not sure the water crisis is truly really over, but that's fine. It's going to be
Uh,
something y'all have to keep on your radar for the future as well.
yeah. Yeah. You know, um, in my travels, I guess you can say I've networked with thousands of Mississippians, and I've found resources. One being Todd Vowell of Vowell's Foods. I think it's called Triple V, possibly. A really incredible human, and we partnered with him to get a truckload of water. We had people all the way as far as California bringing water in,
Oh wow.
and we have a nationwide network although we're only in 12 states across the United States, we have a person who's in charge of large loads. So she has contacts all across the United States. And she helped us make contacts with people who brought water in. And we got it done, man. That's just what we do. We say, hey, we got water. Christ United Methodist Church was a big partner. Fondren Church was a big partner. in Jackson. And I tell you what, Ronnie Crudup Jr. over at New Horizons International Church is a champion um, of many causes. Who I was delightful to be on the phone with him earlier this morning, and I don't know how many tractor trailer loads of water he brought in, but we partner with him a lot to not just do water but food. And um, I can't say enough about New Horizon and about Ronnie Crib Jr.
It sounds like a big part of your job's networking.
Oh yeah, and man, there's nothing more. I use people as my vitamins.
Yeah.
That's how I like to put it because lifelong Mississippian, and you think about moving up to bigger and better things, but I feel like I'm a big fish in a small pond in Mississippi. If I move away, it's a small fish in a big pond. Um, I can't see myself moving away from this incredibly fantastic state and city. Believe it or not, I love my city. No matter how many issues it has, I love it. And as Faulkner says, in order to understand uh, the world, you have to understand a place like Mississippi. And I firmly believe that.
You talk about our hunger, and like I said, I threw those statistics out a little bit.
Yeah.
Obviously, the pandemic even made it more complicated. And one area where it made it really
Mhm.
complicated was that if kids weren't going to school, they were probably missing one of their main meals of the day.
Yeah. And I will say this, hats off to JPS. I think after that water pipe issue back in December a couple years ago, they really figured out some ways to continue to serve food
Yeah.
for our children because parents were still working and life went on, but the kids were just sitting at home and they needed that meal. I know for a fact, Marshall, and you do too. Friday at lunchtime is usually the last meal our children see
Yeah.
until they get to breakfast on Monday at school. But thanks for mentioning the pandemic because Save the Children, which is an incredible organization in the United States, they recently did a study in 2020, I believe, that revealed because of the pandemic, they revealed the most hungry places that are going to pop up. And guess what? We're the number one state, but also Jefferson County, Mississippi is going to be the hungriest county
Wow.
in the nation. And I will tell you, I believe Jefferson County and Southwest Mississippi is one of the most underserved areas in Mississippi, believe it or not. Even with all their history and tourism and all that good stuff, I just don't think we focus so much on the Mississippi Delta because it's been publicized so much,
Right.
and as it should have, and it should be, but we can't forget about our neighbors down there. And we're going to make a concerted effort in 2023 to really try to serve Southwest Mississippi.
Obviously funding is a big part one how people make their choices with food, but also conveniences too.
Yeah,
If mom's working three jobs or two jobs, sometimes it is easy to go through the drive through and get the dollar meal, and stuff like that.
yeah.
What are some ways? And I know, like I said, you deal with food pantries, you deal with churches and so forth, and people that like stew pot who cook the food. But what are ways to make it easier for people to be able to take a sweet potato and be able to create a meal out of it? What are some things that can be done to help with that? Because that's the tough part. It really is.
How many time? How much time do we have left?
We got plenty of time. Yeah. No, no,
You know
no.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's like I said earlier, like hunger is such a deep-rooted thing. You got regulations on public transportation that only allow two bags. I
Yeah.
mean, and if you're trying to go to the grocery store for a week, you can't get
Right.
it in two bags. So that means you're going to have to make multiple trips, which costs more money. And just in Jackson, the public transportation, I mean, it's existent, I will say, but is it easy? I don't think so. And it takes so much time to get to where you want to go because of the route. So, I mean, it's public transportation, it's walkable communities, it's putting grocery stores in underserved communities, it's making food more affordable, it's
Mhm.
passing some good legislation that allows more access. I'm proud to say that I was a part of a bill that got passed with the author Toby Barker, who's the mayor of Hattiesburg,
Mhm.
a couple years back. That um, it allows. It's called healthy food financing. It allows for grants and loans to retailers who locate in underserved communities. However, the bill passed in the first year, which when does that happen, right?
Right.
But there's no funding with it. I mean,
Wow.
it's on the books, it's set up through MDA, but there's no mechanism to put money in that. So I think really incredible, meaningful legislation can be passed to help with this issue. You know, it's we really need and it's inflation and
Yeah.
our food prices are going up. I mean, we're in Halloween season in the fall, and pumpkins have gone up $2. I mean, and that's really we don't see that as an edible food in Mississippi, but um, it can be. And there's recipes for all kinds of pumpkin things. And I think education is one thing, Marshall. I mean, how do you how do you cook a pumpkin? What do you do with a pumpkin? People don't know. You carve it into a jack-o'-lantern. No. I mean, you can make breads, you can make soups and all kinds of things. But and our kids, man, they don't know where their food comes from. I've heard kids say that it comes from Walmart and Kroger, but we know where it comes from. And it's that we skipped a generation. I think we skipped a generation of gardening, if
Yeah.
if that makes sense. And it's just we need some generational education about fresh food, how we can use our land and our resources, especially in Mississippi, to feed ourselves and provide for ourselves. And you got me on my soapbox, my friend.
No, that's
And I guess hungry is my soapbox, but access is a really big thing for me, and it's a beast, if you will, of how do we do this in Mississippi? We don't have
right.
walkable communities in Mississippi. Hats off to Chip Johnson and Hernando, who has passed ordinance that new subdivisions have to have sidewalks. They have to have a percentage of green space. He's a very health conscious mayor, and
Mhm.
his farmers market is incredible. We need more farmers markets. We need to have local farmers markets, and we need people to understand you don't need a building to have a farmers market. Like in Hernando, the trucks and the farmers pull up to the square, and they sell the back of their trucks. Literally, I mean, like I'm not making this up. They they may set up a table, but they sell their fresh foods out of their truck, and it's an absolutely Coldwater, Mississippi. I helped establish that farmers market, and it's what's in Coldwater? Cold water.
Oh, water.
I mean that's it. But we established a farmers market, so you open up that can, man. Not to
No,
no
that's good.
pun
I mean,
intended, but
but that to me that's fascinating because it's like I said, your job has so many different aspects to it, and some of it
yeah.
you've probably taken on since you've gotten the job because you see that need out there. But tell us, I mean, obviously, tell us at the end of the day, what is your job description? What when you go in every day, these are the things on my to-do list that I need to knock out.
Well, for me, Marshall, I tell people there's two people in this office. There's me, and there's an incredible program coordinator, Letitia Skinner,
Mm-hmm.
who's only been here since February, and she's killing it. Like I am so proud of her. She had no experience in this realm, which is so crazy tricky, as you can tell. I tell people if she calls you, she's going to be asking for food or saying she's got some food to give you. If I call you, I mean saying, "Can I come speak to your organization?" or "Can you write me a check?"
Yeah.
So, but yeah, but I work on strategy. Because I have the experience to do that. And
Yeah.
I nurture Letitia and um, try to do the best I can for this office and for our hungry neighbors to figure out new processes, but to stay with the old that we have in place because it works. We know it works. But I firmly believe there's always new answers
Right.
to the questions we have. The questions don't change really, but I think because of technology, because of um, the the ingenuity of humans and the giving hearts of Mississippians, there's always new ways to get things done. And that's really one of my big things is like go back to what you say, networking. There's so many people working in this realm, especially since the pandemic. And since the pandemic, a lot of people are doing it wrong, unfortunately,
Yeah.
which hurts more
How's
people
that?
than it helps.
How are they doing it wrong?
Well, they want to feed hungry people,
Hmm.
and that's their strategy. I want to feed hungry people, but they don't know how to do it, and they don't know how to schedule things. They don't know where to get food from, and they overpromise and underdeliver. Um, and a lot of people who started in the pandemic, they're no longer there, but there's plenty of organizations doing it right. I mean, Mississippi Food Network, Extra Table, ourselves, and you just it's a as you can tell how I talk, it's very tricky. It's not just I'm going to feed people.
Yeah.
You got to have a strategy in place to figure out how you're going to do it, and it's incredibly tough. It's hard and it's rewarding, which is
Yeah.
the best thing about it. It's rewarding, and our unique model, if you will, is we really a lot of times we don't see the end user of our food because we partner with so many people,
Yeah.
like the 11,000 pounds of food. We had people come pick it up and take it back to their community. So we're hitting, the drop was in Oxford, but the food went to I don't know how many communities, 30 communities. Um, so that's how we're successful. We just have these partnerships and trustworthy people um, that are in the fight with us. And it's a big fight. And, are we ever going to win it? I don't know. We got to get more partners involved that, have resources that can help us. And we got people to understand that hunger looks like everybody.
Yeah.
That's that's a big one.
Yeah.
That and we have more hungry people now because of the pandemic. We have people that look like me and you, Marshall, that are hungry. Will they tell you they're hungry? Nope.
Nope. Well,
Um,
they got
but
pride.
it's people that have lost jobs,
Yeah.
8 to 5 jobs that were providing perfectly for their families. But I saw a layoff, like, and I'm a middle class male, white male, and it affected me, and it's still affecting us, even though it looks like we're on the other side of the pandemic. Um, the after effects are still there, just like after a natural disaster.
Well,
There's
we've got
still things we
right.
have to
The after
do.
effects of the pandemic is causing the supply
Yeah,
chain issues, which caused inflation, which is now going to cause the economy to slow down. So yeah. So it's like go ahead and get the trucks ready because we're gonna.
yeah,
This is not going. This is not over. And but like you said, you see the need out there, and one of the reasons, honestly, why I wanted to have you on today was because I thought your story was interesting, of course, but also too, it's like I want more people to know about it because even I didn't, I know you and I
yeah,
wasn't totally sure what you did. And so, and I think it's something where, obviously you mentioned some really great organizations that are out there getting it done, but
yeah,
these organizations need all the help they can get and they need every dollar they can get as well.
yeah,
So say if I were to write $100 check to you, right? And
yeah.
that's probably not going to do a lot, but you said you sounds
Um,
like you can turn some you can turn a dollar into some miracles. What
yeah.
obviously what are some of the things would that $100 go to?
Well, if we're talking about food wise, Marshall, $100, 4,500 servings of food,
Yeah. I mean,
and
do
that
you have
equates.
when you get it from, like, for instance, when you go to a farmer and say, "Hey, I want your excess food," do you
Yeah.
have to pay for that food, or are they going to say, "Hey, know what, we're going to donate it"?
Um, we
Okay.
don't pay for it.
But
There
transportation costs and things like that are things that
that's
you do have
that's
to
what
pay
we
for.
need.
Yeah.
Yep. Because we
Yeah.
have to move the food
Right.
and we have to rent trucks. We have a couple farms that they want us to pay a pack out cost, which basically we're covering their fees for their labor.
Yeah.
But they're not charging us additionally for the food.
Right.
Um, we have labor costs. We have to raise our salaries
Well, yeah, at
as
the end of the
modest
day,
as
yeah.
they
And
are,
and you have
as
lights on
modest
too.
as they are.
Right.
Ask my wife. We have to raise everything. We have to raise money for electricity. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And
And your
we
costs
are
are going up
truly,
too. Yeah.
yeah. And so yeah, administrative costs. But moving the food is the biggest
Yeah.
cost we have. You're talking. To move 11,000 pounds of sweet potatoes last weekend, it was, $3,500. We have forklifts involved. We have pallet jacks involved. We have 26-foot trailers involved. Um, and that stuff's not, we have fuel that's involved. So yeah, we have costs associated with our food, just not our food is a
Yeah.
cost.
You know,
Um,
we talk
so yeah,
about, yeah, we talk about obviously food deserts, and to me the fact that the Delta, which has the richest soil in the nation,
mm,
is a food desert blows me away. But you look around and you see cotton and soybeans, and they do have corn, but a lot of that's for ethanol. You
it
mentioned
is.
you mentioned sweet potatoes, and I would say that would make you a sweet potato king. But I'm not going to get into Jill's territory there. I don't want Jill coming after either one of us.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So just forget I even
I'm not
mentioned.
having a parade either.
No, no, you wouldn't be able to do it as well as she has. So there you
No,
go.
that's
So,
true. That's true.
but I mean, what are some of the other crops that are grown in Mississippi that you're able to go get?
Yeah. Anything you see in a grocery store, we can pretty much grow in Mississippi. Um, we get a lot of tomatoes, blueberries. Um, One of my favorite things to do, Marshall, is coming up in December. We'll go and glean about 4,000 pounds of satsumas.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and the farmer has a rule, says you pick one, you eat one. We're like, okay, we can do that. Um, so, peas, butter beans,
Yeah.
anything that we grow in Mississippi, we have access to. I think the one need um, for us is to understand because of our climate, we can grow, broccoli, cauliflower, the winter greens, besides turnip greens and mustards.
Yeah.
And I tell people, my dad didn't grow that stuff. He didn't know how to. And I just don't think we know how to do it. And I think that's an education piece that um, I think the extension services are doing a really good job of educating people on that. And I would love nothing better than to grab me some broccoli or cauliflower and get it so people can experience that. And Marshall, I haven't talked about this, and I don't know if we do a good job as an organization talking about this, but would you believe that 40% of the food we grow is wasted in the United
Forty
States?
percent.
It never makes it to market. And that leads in conjunction with a lot of other factors. I'm going to say this number and it blows people away. In the United States, we waste 133 billion pounds of food a year, enough food to feed every American. And although we believe and we know there's enough food grown in the United States to feed every American,
Mm-hmm.
we have a sweet woman over in Rankin County who wants to serve us through growing food. And we're not going to turn her down. We've never turned her down. She grows about 3 acres of turnip greens for us. And we
Wow.
go glean that. And the greens are usually ready the week before or the week of Thanksgiving. And it's incredible. We used to go to Jackson Public School and sit out in the parking lot at carpool time and hand that food out. And it's just great. That's one of the times we get to see the end users of our food and just to hear the thank yous and to see their faces light up. To know to us it may seem small, but I really know that we're doing something worthy, worthwhile, um, and giving them some nutritious food um, for Thanksgiving or for a meal that they may not have gotten because they can't afford it or they don't have access to it. So, yeah, to answer that question, I guess
Yeah. Well,
I don't
I mean,
like. I'm like, what was that question?
no, that was fine. I think I forgot it too, to
Okay,
be honest with you.
yeah, right. I
But no,
think when me and you get in a room, we tend to do that.
no, I know that's the beauty of it. Here's the
Yeah,
thing. I mean, you literally at night, I mean, people talk about getting rich or being wealthy or whatever, but I mean, you go to bed at night and your head hits the pillow and you've lived a rich day. Because wealth is not necessarily always about money. It's about how you live your life. So I mean, it has to be incredibly rewarding. Um, and frustrating.
Look at this, man.
Yeah, they're smiling. Oh, but
Um,
yeah, no,
yeah,
it's good. And like I said, a big part of what you do obviously is networking with churches and getting the
yeah,
volunteers and so forth on that. And I've been on a lot of church committees and been involved with that. A lot of times churches are really hungry, no pun intended, on ways to help.
yeah,
And that it makes it easy for them too, because you're providing them a way that they can get their members involved and be able to live out the words that they learn on Sunday school.
yeah. And see, like with us, if you're talking about, let's talk about 11,000 pounds of sweet potatoes that we just did in
Right.
Oxford. I mean, we have an opportunity for 100 people to volunteer for that event, and we do an incredible food drop. I call it a yam jam at Jackson State,
Yeah.
usually twice a year. We just recently did it. I guess in what is it, September, August, right? The second week of school, I believe. They have over 200 students come and volunteer with us for 10,000 pounds of food.
Oh wow. Yeah.
And it's incredible. We had Cindy Ayers brought watermelons. We had 10,000 pounds of sweet potatoes. They have a DJ. We had water. They do it right. They know what's going on. And Heather Dene over there at Jackson State, I call it my hometown university. They they're in the fight, man, and
Mhm.
they have an incredible food pantry on campus too, called Tiger. I can't remember Tiger something, but yeah. So um, we do offer a great volunteer opportunity for congregations, for Rotary clubs, for whomever, and I would encourage people to. It's easy to get involved with us. All you need to do is text um, SOSAMS. So it
Mhm.
stands for Society of St. Andrew, Mississippi, to 42828. And you will get a link saying, here's how you sign up. And you sign up, and you will start receiving all our emails that tell you when we schedule an event, where we're going to be, and a link to sign up. So volunteering is pretty easy. And Marshall, we don't have an age requirement for our volunteers. If a parent thinks a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old can do something with us, come on. Because kids are like when they get involved, Marshall, it's absolutely incredible of seeing those kids light up and just to put sweet potatoes in the back of a truck or a cantaloupe. They uh they love it. And we're here to put that fire in their hearts to hopefully move them forward into service, whether it's with us or just serving mankind. Period. We want our citizens to do that, and um, it's incredible to be involved in this organization, but just in a nonprofit period because, like you said, I am blessed to not have to chase money.
Yeah.
I mean, I raise money, but
Yeah.
um, I don't worry about a bill. My wife is the breadwinner. I'm not scared to admit that at all. And she's a champion with me.
Yeah.
She's when I went to training in Virginia, we get to meet each staff member in Virginia. And we're people talk about being involved in a family, and we are a true family at Society of St. Andrew. We pray before meetings. We check on each other. I'm in a group chat with 3 people because we love each other. We're friends and we joke around. So I met everybody, and they would all want to know about my family. I'd say, well, I'm married to Lisa, and I've told Lynette, who's our executive director, I said, Lisa and I are a team, so you're really hiring a team. So I told that to everybody who came in the room, right? And so the second day, the second person came in, and they said, "Well, tell me about your family." And our executive director Lynette said, "He's married to Lisa, their team, yada yada yada." I didn't just hire him; I hired both of them. So that's how we operate. And I think learning from some of my counterparts, a lot of our spouses are in the fight too,
Yeah.
because they know how passionate we are. And I think we feed or they feed off of us. No pun intended again.
Yeah.
Um, and it's incredible. And I hope all nonprofits are kind of like that. That if a spouse is doing some great work, that their spouse is right there beside them. So um, it's
Yeah.
nonprofit's a great space, man.
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, it's always well, we're doing what we learned in Sunday school every day. We're bringing it to life, but also too, there's a there, but for the grace of God, go I moment too, when you realize that you could be on the other end of that also at some point, and you nearly were. So
I
yes,
nearly was,
yeah,
yeah. Oh,
so
yeah.
totally understand.
And the pandemic was so crazy. I
Yeah,
mean, I started a journal with just crazy stuff that just happened to me. I mean, I can
yeah.
go on and on and on about the stuff that happened, and I'm glad to be out of that space.
Yeah, but don't you find it? I mean, it does help you on a mental front to feel like that you're actually, and that was when we did the 5K race when Keith Warren and I did the melanoma race. Here I'd had melanoma and his dad had had it. To
Yeah,
me, I found out it was healing because I'd actually helped other people avoid the situation that I was in. And like I said, when you're getting up every day and getting that done, that's kind of a healing thing too. Is there anything that I haven't touched on?
yes,
Okay. Thank you.
but we'd never get to
Okay.
it. I mean, it's just, like I said, it's so complex. Hunger is so
Yeah.
complex. I think we touched on the main points of who we are. It's important for people to know who we are because nobody's been in this space before since 2006 to educate the public
Yeah.
on who we are. And again, I just want to say, from Corinth to the coast, from Meridian to the mighty, we serve this state. Letitia will be at Alcorn tomorrow
Yeah.
to do some stuff with the extension service. I'll be speaking next month about 6 different occasions. And if anybody in an organization needs a speaker, I'm your guy. Like, as you can tell from talking to Marshall, I love talking. I love
Yeah.
talking
Oh, you're
about
not
social. I
shy. You
love
never
talking
have
about,
been. Yeah.
yeah, about hunger.
Yeah.
And if you don't mind, I'll give my contact information out. It's
Oh,
real
go ahead.
easy.
Hmm.
Yeah, my email address is Mississippi spelled out at hunger.org. And I tell people sometimes like whoever got that domain name is a genius that we have endhunger.org. And yeah, real easy to get me. Just reach out to me. I'd love to come speak to your organization. I have about a 20-minute presentation that kind of touches what we did here.
Yeah.
And again, it doesn't touch everything. I didn't get to talk about our Harvest of Hope, which is a youth retreat basically where we educate youth on hunger, but we also immerse them
Hmm.
and we let them go glean food and distribute the food.
That's awesome.
And I'm happy to announce that we'll be hosting one finally in Mississippi in July, and I can't wait.
How can people send you checks?
Oh, easy. They can go to a couple ways, endhunger.org, and you can look up at the top right of the screen. It says donate now, or more importantly, donate monthly. And you can sign up for a monthly draw from your bank. Or you can just send me a check at P.O. Box 620, Jackson, Mississippi, 39296.
At the end of the day, and we're so good in Mississippi. I talk about chainsaws and casseroles. Like if there is a tornado or hurricane, before you can get out of the rubble of your house, there will be a church van in your front yard with chainsaws and
Yeah,
casseroles, because the need is so easy to see.
yeah,
And hunger's tough because like I said, you're walking down the street, you may pass, like you said, 4 out of the 10 people you pass are probably hungry and you would have no idea. So that's why it's so important to be proactive and to be able to get that food out there. It's because people are going to step up and like you said, for pride reasons or whatever, they may not instantly say, hey, I need help here.
yeah,
But at the end of the day, if you're not out there delivering the food, they may not get it. So thank you so much for what you're doing, man. I mean, I'm proud of you. Like I said, I've known you a long time, and I'm
thanks,
glad that
buddy.
you landed in a place where you're actually doing some good for a change.
Yeah. Hey, let me correct myself, man. I got excited. So
Okay.
my P.O. box is not 620. That's a physical address.
Okay.
My P.O. box is P.O. Box 5362, Jackson 39296.
Okay, repeat that because somebody at PO Box 620 is about to get a lot of checks and they're going to be really excited. So we don't want that.
I have to tell my postmaster, watch out for this.
Yeah.
So it's PO Box 5362.
Okay.
39296. 39296. Yeah. And I want to brag on something real quick. I got a phone call from my 19-year-old son. And you always want to know that you're pouring into your kids and making an influence, right? And we look silly to them and they make fun of us, but he called me and said, "Hey, I need to know who you know to get a magnet made for my truck." He has a yard cutting business. I figured that's what he wanted.
Yeah.
I said, "Okay." And he told me some stuff. And he said, "Well, oh, wait, let me back up. Let me tell you what's going on so you know." I said, "Okay, what's going on?" He said, "Well, me," and he named 3 other people. They're heading to Florida to go help with storm cleanup.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, "Dude,
Yeah.
go do you, man." And I brag on him all the time. He's 19 years old and has a work ethic that runs circles around me.
Yeah.
And
One thing I've discovered about parenting is that sometimes kids don't listen, but they always watch. So
that's right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Well, man, I can't thank you enough.
Oh, you're welcome. I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed the conversation, but I'm like I said, I think what you're doing is quite noble. And to email me some of those addresses and so forth, and I'll make sure I get it in the description below the video.
Okay, you got it.
You
got it.
Good deal.
Right.
Well,
brother, good to see you, man.
Yeah.
Good to talk to you, of course, as always.
Yeah.
I love catching up with you, and it's like we've never been apart.
I know it is pretty amazing.
Together.
We used to have a lot of fun battling cancer back in the day. So.
We did.
Yeah.
All right, brother. I love you, man. Take care.
Right. Okay. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching this episode of Mississippi Stories. Make sure to subscribe to the Mississippi Today YouTube channel and click the bell to be notified every time a new video uploads.